Hi babies, it's BB. Welcome back. I am going to do a VR for you today to Rhiannon Rambles, and the hashtag is Wanderlust Decks, and this is gonna be really fun, I think. I have 17 decks for you, and they're all based off of types of travelers or types of traveling, and I will link her video below. Don't mind this. I was playing with my cat and she has very, very sharp claws. I cut them today. She wasn't super happy about it, but she tolerated me. Back to the point, Wanderlust decks. Is this even? Like, does it bother people other than me? Probably not. Rhiannon had some really fun prompts, so let's jump into it. I hope you like the choices I made. I don't know if they were very obvious or not. You can tell me. I mean, I think there are two different ways to answer these questions a lot of times. I wish I could say that I could just like personify and embody. For example, the first prompt is the backpacker, but I don't really know if I have any decks that literally look like the backpacker in my head, you know? It's just, that's just not my vibe, so hopefully these translate. I think they will. Let's get into it. Okay, so my choice for the backpacker, which the keywords were adventurous, practical, and versatile. I chose the Spirit Speak. It's a mini, it's a little baby. And I think that it's very adventurous in its imagery because it's a little like unconventional and it's kind of desert themed, as well as the fact that it's black and white. It doesn't have a lot of like specific age group or gender, you know, it's kind of out there, which I think makes it really versatile. I think its practicality lies in the fact that it is black and white. For me, that makes things really practical. I can mix it with a lot of things. I feel like I can read for a lot of different people with it. It's not very, what's the word? Like ostracizing to people. And the fact that it's a mini is very practical. So to me, this has very like backpacking vibes in the sense where it could be in my backpack. I could backpack across Europe and use this deck, you know? Spirit Speak. Prompt number 2, the cruiser. And Rhiannon showed like the perfect cruiser deck, which was the Golden Girls deck. I chose the Majestic Earth. And the reason why, let me get it together for you, is because the prompts were relaxing, luxurious, and enjoyable. And that's really what this is for me. And I also thought about the fact that when you're cruising, you tend to see a lot of large, expansive views, either from the boat, from the port on foot, or like walking through cities. You tend to see like, that's kind of the vibe of the trip, is that you're seeing a lot of landscapes, you're seeing a lot of like big picture views. And so I felt like this was really fitting for a cruise. This is an incredibly relaxing deck to me. It's very centering and calming. It's incredibly luxurious. I think the fact that it's classical art, the fact that it's gilded, the quality of the cardstock is amazing. It has this kind of elevated, serene aspect or element to it. And of course, it's incredibly enjoyable. Wow, we're really like whipping through these. I wonder if this is gonna be like a very short video. Famous last words. But that's my cruiser, the Majestic Earth Tarot. Number 3, the Roadtripper. The keywords for this were spontaneous, fun, and full of surprises, and I chose a Kickstarter deck by the name of Tarot by the Neon Light. This one is really irreverent and fun and kind of surprising in its imagery sometimes. It doesn't always take the expected route. Yeah, I think the neon element is really fun, and it's spontaneous in the sense that it's very unexpected. I think I said that. But I mean, like, the imagery itself is unexpected, and then the way the images were conceptualized is really unexpected. Like, who would have thought to do, you know, a tarot full of like neon signs? Not me, not this guy. I think it's so fun. And it reminds me of road trips too, because like that's what you see on the side of the road, especially in places like Route 66, more old school, because Route 66 isn't as much of a thing anymore as it used to be. But it reminds me of Vegas, and I live in California, born and raised, so driving to Vegas is a thing. We don't always fly, sometimes we do, but most of the time Vegas is a road trip. So I thought this was very fitting. Tarot by the Neon Light is my road tripper. Prompt number 4 is the Explorer. This is the Tarot of Marrakesh. And the keywords for this one are curious, daring, and open-minded. I really see that in this deck. I'm gonna leave it in order because I am gonna do a walkthrough of it. But I find this deck so fun and beautiful and exploratory in its art style, its imagery, its interpretations of the meanings. And this is especially, it's in the minor arcana. So if we look at, let me start at the ace. Okay, yeah. So urns being cups, right? So you've got the ace and the 2, and you're like, what's changing? Okay, the urn is getting larger and the moon is getting closer to the sun. Do you see? So it's showing the passage of time. The moon phases, an eclipse, and then moving away. And as you see, the urn keeps getting larger until we get to the 10. Isn't that cool? Okay, so that's why this deck felt very daring. It like piques my curiosity. It feels very open-minded, very expansive. I love it. I love all the people in it. This is the suit of mandalas. So they all kind of, with the minors, like build on themselves, which is really, really fun. I love the colors. Yeah, this is my Explorer, which is interesting too, because not in Marrakesh specifically, but the deserts remind me, and like the dunes in these images remind me of Egypt. And to this day, there is so much from ancient Egypt that is buried underneath the dunes that we have yet to discover. I was just watching a documentary about that the other day, but that's my Explorer, the Tarot of Marrakesh. Number 5 is the Tourist. I chose the Mermaid Tarot, and the prompts for this are popular, accessible, and well-known. So this is an easy deck to get. You can get it secondhand through things like Facebook groups or maybe eBay. You can get it new in a couple different versions from the creator herself on Etsy. It's a very well-known deck. It's gone through a couple iterations. And I find that it's very accessible in the sense that it's very Rider-Waite-Smith based. The images are easy to understand. And it's very enjoyable. And it still feels like you're going to some far off place or some fantasy land. So there is like an element of travel in it as well. Unless where you live has mermaids, then let me know because I want to live there too. So number 7, the tourist, is the Mermaid Tarot. I'm sorry, I said the last one was number 7. It was not number 7, it was number 5. This is number 6. This is the local. I chose the 20th Century Tarot. Now this prompt is authentic, familiar, and close to home. Oh yeah, these are in order too because I have yet to do a walkthrough. So the reason this feels very authentic to me is because it's sketch style drawings, it's minimal. It feels like very homemade almost, which makes it feel very authentic. It's familiar. I can't explain to you why this feels familiar because what I'm about to tell you is kind of a good explanation, but that's not, it's like that came after the fact. So let me explain. This deck, the book for the deck was written by my grandfather on my dad's side. I don't know if he did the imagery, or I'm sorry, the illustrations as well. The illustrations are not credited. It was printed in 1970 in Anaheim, California. My dad grew up in Westminster, California. Those are both cities in Orange County. And so this deck does feel close to home, which is the last keyword or prompt of number 6, the local. But that's not why it feels familiar. My dad told me about this deck like a year or 2 ago, and ever since I've wanted a copy. I did acquire a copy, obviously. I remember looking it up and just feeling like it felt really familiar. Maybe it's because I grew up watching Robin Hood and this kind of feels like that, or it feels like kind of Disney in a sense, like vintage 1960s Disney. I'm not sure, but there's something about this that feels like home. And then the fact that it is a part of, you know, my home in a sense, with my grandfather being a part of its development and printing is just really, really special and cool. And so this is my local. This is my local deck, the 20th Century Tarot. Oh, I think I was starting to say I did find a copy of this, which is in my hands that you're looking at right now. Gosh, way to be redundant. But my point was, what I was kind of leading up to, is that I've said this before in other videos, but I don't have the book. So my grandfather wrote the book, but the deck I purchased didn't have a book that went along with it. And I have seen it going on eBay with the deck and the book recently, and my good friends have, you know, alerted me every time they've seen it, but it tends to be expensive and a little bit more than I can afford. So one day I will have the book, but for now, here's the deck. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Okay, number 7 and number 8 are a little bit interchangeable in my mind. I kind of went back and forth on which one to put where, but we've settled on this for now. I may take it back someday. Number 7 is the Jetsetter. The keywords are glamorous, sophisticated, and worldly. I chose the Deva or Diva Tarot. And I know that this, like, It's very subjective. I have to show you the backs because I love the backs. And look, it's like my tattoo kind of, and my little thingy on my charm. Okay, anyway, I find this deck very sophisticated, very worldly, and very glamorous. I don't know if everyone would agree with me. Let's put it here. But that's just how I see it. I believe that this is from the 80s, question mark. I love everything about it. I love the shape. I love the borders. I love the placement of the keywords and the titles. I guess it's not really keywords. It's actually German, English, and French. So, titles. I love the style of the illustrations, the colors, and I find it's obviously worldly, right? I guess that's subjective too, because like I'm an American and I find something about Indian deities being worldly, right? But someone from India might not find it worldly. Maybe they will, because it's about gods. Just so you know, like Diva is a form of life other than human and is not perceived by physical eyes. That's like a little introductory sentence for you if you're interested. So I'm pretty sure, I haven't read up a lot on this deck, but it looks like it's based on the Thoth by the Minor Arcana imagery. And it just captivates me. I find it very sophisticated, maybe more so in the art direction of the deck than anything else. But I'm absolutely obsessed and I can't wait to work with it. I will do a walkthrough. Are these all extra? Oh yeah, these are extra cards. But let me know what you think. If you think I'm way off base with how much I love this deck. It's very special. I think it's my like most prized deck at the moment. But this is my Jetsetter, the Diva Tarot. Deck number 8 is the Pilgrim. Spiritual, meaningful, transformative. And I chose Tarot as color by Ethel Colquhoun. Because obviously, it's incredibly spiritual, transformative. You're forced to look within. You're forced to look deeper because you're not getting figures. You're not getting people. You can't project anything. You can't displace anything. You're just faced with feelings and colors and organic shape, you know? It feels like these images were created like with spirit. And I don't mean spirit in kind of the sense of the word where there's this like omnipotent being or anything like that. I just mean like spirit, the energy, you know? Either one's spirit or a collective spirit. Like lowercase spirit, not uppercase spirit. With the part of you that is animate. So this is prompt number 8, the Pilgrim, and it's Tarot as color. Deck number 9 is the Nomad. I chose Runners of the Sun Oracle. Yes, I did choose Oracle as well as tarot decks. And the Nomad is free-spirited, independent, and adaptable. And I find that those keywords are true for this deck. I feel a very like free-spirited quality about the imagery and the keywords in this deck. It really can stand on its own, and it feels like it's set itself apart from most decks out there. Not on purpose, just by kind of being itself, right? I think it's incredibly adaptable. I've paired it with many different decks with a lot of success. I think it's also very adaptable, like person to person, and it's objectively, I guess I can say objectively, but that's not true. But I think it's gorgeous is what I was gonna say. That's the Nomad, the Runners of the Sun. Number 10 is the Culture Vulture. I chose the Literary Tarot. This is a deck that is diverse, educational, and enriching. We know that reading is enriching. I love that all of the illustrations have been interpreted in all sorts of ages, and I mean, the ages are pretty much like aligned with what is written in the books, but the representation of race and color in this deck is very diverse, which I like. And it's very educational for me because I didn't read a lot of classics. I know kind of the gist of and like the main plot of many classics, but I feel like every time I use this deck, I learn something new. The guidebook for this deck is really beautiful and is written by writers, which is really special. So you're getting a perspective from someone who, you know, in a sense, like where this is their life's work, you know, doing what these classic authors did, whether it's in the same type, like a form, like a novel, or in other ways, like journalists or things like that. But I do find this deck really, really beautiful, really enriching, like I said, and a great culture vulture. That's the Literary Tarot. Deck number 11 is the Volunteer, and I chose the Love Oracle of Eden. Another oracle. This is a gorgeous deck. The keywords for this prompt are compassionate, helpful, and altruistic. And I really find that that's true. It's a very altruistic deck, pretty much focusing on the positive qualities that you can offer yourself and in turn offer others. It's incredibly compassionate to oneself. That's kind of the point of this deck. And I have found in the small amount of therapy in the big picture that I've had in my life that I suffer most, and this is just for me, not necessarily everyone else, but when I'm not giving myself the compassion that I offer others. And this is a deck that really, altruism. This is a deck that really reminds me to have compassion for myself and really backs it up with how I can, you know? It doesn't just say have compassion for yourself, it literally tells you all the different ways that you can practice that in your life. So I do find it incredibly helpful and useful, and I think it's a perfect fit for the Volunteer. That's the Love Oracle of Eden. Number 12 is the Solo Traveler, and I chose the Bad Girl Oracle. This is a deck that is introspective, self-reliant, and empowering. And as a girl, I can relate to pretty much all of these archetypes. It is empowering for me. It kind of reclaims some of the stereotypes that maybe we feel trapped by or judged by or frustrated with or reduced to, you know? And it kind of flips any sort of blame or victimhood or limitation on its head. And I find that incredibly empowering. And it doesn't rely on anything else but you. So I find it perfect solo traveler. The Bad Girl Oracle. Lucky number 13 is the Dreamer, and I chose the aptly named Lucid Dreams Tarot. This is the Black Eclipse version. This comes in 2 piles, but I do have it in order because I'm going to do a flip through. So we're just going to flip through these. Okay, what are my prompts for this? Okay, imaginative, check, right? We've got some historical fantasy things happening, some like cosmic heavenly things happening. It's creative and it's visionary. So it goes into this like kind of liminal, dreamy, what's the word? Almost like manifesting space. This fantasy space based off of dreams, but also like history and like generational, I love that, 3 of Swords, kind of generational consciousness almost. And I think it's very dreamy and very appropriate for this prompt. It's like mystical fantasy. I love it. So this is the Lucid Dreams Tarot, the Black Eclipse version, and it is my Dreamer. Okay, so this might be a little on the nose, but this is my Staycationer. It's the Tildwick 10th Anniversary Edition. And our prompts for this one are homey, familiar, and not very social, which is what you're going to get here, right? It's literally tableaus of walls and spaces in homes, or a home, we don't know, this could be one huge estate, and no people. You're not socializing. If you are, it's with plants, birds, statues, you know, mirrors. It feels familiar in the sense that, like, even if we've never been to a place like this, we've seen places like this in movies or television or reading books, you know, images that we had kind of, made up in our heads. It's very like Great Expectations, Miss Havisham's house. I think of like the importance of being earnest. Which like isn't this time period, but I think of the movie with Rupert Everett, which was more this time period. Don't get me into like, why do we view Shakespeare so many more times than not through a Victorian lens? Like, don't get me started, that's a whole different conversation. But the Tildwick Tarot is my Staycationer. Deck number 15 is the Time Traveler. I chose the Womanhood Revisited Tarot. This is a deck that takes you to other times and past lives, which this very, very much does. It is all set in different times, and all of them could have been past lives. Really does transport me. I think because there's so many kind of like mundane images and depictions of women doing things that would have been part of everyday life or experience in those different times. Sometimes it's not. I mean, would we be doing this? Maybe. Who knows? Maybe in another life I was an adventuress. But I really do love this, and it very much reminds me of ancestry, families, domesticity, you know, and like the woman experience. Obviously from a certain place in the world, you know. This is obviously very Western, but I love the Hermit. That might be one of my favorite cards in the deck. I do have a walkthrough of this. I will link it. And that is my Time Traveler. Okay, last two decks. Number 16 is my Stargater. I know that's a weird word, but we're going with it. This deck takes you to new galaxies and explores cosmic energies. I chose the Technomage Tarot, and it feels like another galaxy to me. It also is very cosmic, like, you know, very space travel. Yeah, there's something about it that doesn't feel like Earth. I know that it could be very dystopian, like Blade Runner, Earth in 1,000 years from now. I mean, maybe that's kind of realistic, but there's something about it that feels kind of like it's from another planet. I don't know. But I do like the fantasy and like the escape of it. It's very otherworldly. We love a sci-fi moment. Oh yeah, and they have like extra cards at the end. So this is my Stargater, the Technomage. Okay, last prompt, and this one's kind of like weird or funny, I don't know. It's the Jumper, and this takes you through portals and different dimensions, and just like, hear me out, because I chose the Moonlit Hermit Tarot. I can talk. I chose the Moonlit Hermit Tarot. And if this doesn't look like a different freaking dimension, then I don't know what does. You know? It's like tarot, the evolution of tarot, or even maybe the birth of tarot, like the conception of tarot on a different planet. No? I'm also like messing it up when I was gonna do a walkthrough, but that's fine. Like, this is just wild, but it's recognizable at the same time. So it just feels like a different dimension. It doesn't feel like, oh, look at this like deck that did its own thing. It's like, no, look at this classic tarot that's from a different dimension. I don't know, that's my argument. Take it or leave it. So that's my Jumper, the Moonlit Hermit. And that was my last deck. What do you think? What do we think here? I want to thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being curious. Thanks for being my friend. Who else do I need to thank? Thank you, Rhiannon Rambles, because this was very fun. I just started memberships on my channel. So for $2.99 a month, you can get special badges by your name. You can use a very cute, personally created and chosen emojis. And then I believe it's for, I think it might be $5.99 or $6.99. You can get early access to videos. I should have written down all of these things. It's like new for me, and I should have written everything down so that I was giving you accurate information. But I will do a community post about it so you can see all of the extra goodies that are being offered. And if you have requests for more or different ones, please let me know, because I'm happy to offer them, okay? My mom's coming, I gotta go. But love you so much, besties, and I'll see you in the next one.